All right, so this is a quick little training with my thoughts on how to respond when you are being shocked on new construction and the in-house lender is in the equation, right? So this is a very challenging situation. I'd say the close rate on an existing home, I feel like 95% of the time I can kind of win the deal. When it's new construction, it's probably 50-50. It really just depends on how aggressive that builder is going to be in terms of the incentives they're going to provide on if you can even stay in the game or not. So here are a couple quick bullet points. Number one, I would say you got to build enough value and enough trust with them so that they'll give you the loan estimate from the other lender. Then you got to build it into Mortgage Coach and do a side-by-side comparison. And then you look for things that are wrong or incorrect that you can kind of use as an angle. Sometimes they screw up the property taxes. That's a big one to look at. Maybe you can go more aggressive on homeowners insurance. Maybe they're making some mistakes. Maybe you can go single premium and and get them a lower payment, right? So a lot of times you're going to need to focus on payment and cash to close, not so much maybe rate. Like maybe you go a little higher on rate because you can't give the same amount, but if you can get the cash to close your monthly payment lower because of maybe some mistakes or angles on the deal. So the longer you've been in the business, I feel like the more angles you can find, but you really need to get that loan estimate. And that's where I would say start with, like, get that and then let me take a look at it with you and I can give you some thoughts on it. Okay. And you just build that in Mortgage Coach, do it side by side. You can then present it to the customer and show, hey, look, this is where I'm, providing a better solution potentially. I would say also, you got to maybe look to float down, lock the rate in as soon as possible to leverage the long-term rate lock, getting them to committed now with the new program and the upfront fee. It gives you a little bit more of an angle. It's not as good as it was in our last company, but that's an angle. I would say also floating down the rate, getting corporate help, canceling and relocking, even re-originating a loan if you want. You got to go channel pricing. Most of the time, you're not going to get as good of a deal on builder deal. But builder business, you're going to make a lot less money. You're probably going to be giving up half to 2/3 of your comp on a lot of deals. So just that's a reality. Like you're going to have to do channel pricing. You may even want to try the affinity program. Try putting through that. Corporate will waive the underwriting fee. So that would be an angle. I would also ask if you price is not as much of an issue when value is super clear. So if you're built enough value and trust with the client, sometimes they'll just go with you, even though you maybe have a higher interest rate or higher closing costs. Maybe just getting close might be enough. Another thing is telling a buyer, hey, I've worked for you this long. I need you to go to the builder sales agent and their manager, and I need you to ask them to give me the incentive. If there's a $5,000 builder incentive that is coming from the builder, not the lender. The lender is not giving you that money. The builder is. The builder is saying, I will give $5,000 if you use my preferred lender. Okay. So you can go ask for that and say, hey, at different times, I'd say 90% of the time the builder won't do it, but I have had builders do it before. So it is possible. I would say also, this is a good article I use, the Mortgage Reports. You can look at this link, type it in, but it's an external article that talks about the pros and cons, right? So it explains that the preferred lender, they're making money on it, right? So the builder wants you to use the preferred lender because they own that company and they're making money on it. So now the builder's making money on the mortgage, the title work, and the sales price. So obviously what they could do is just choose to make less. What they're going to do is, let's say, do the mortgage for free, give a substantially lower interest rate or give some incentives on the lending side, because they can always just charge more, $5,000 more. Let's say their base price is $500,000. Well, they just listed it for 505, and now they have $5,000 extra to give to cover, to push them to use the lender. It didn't really cost the builder anything. They can manipulate the numbers behind the scenes, but it's not as easy for us to do that, so that would be just explaining that, how preferred lenders they cannot require you to do it, but obviously with that incentive, it can make it a lot harder. There are certain benefits, it talks about that, but there are drawbacks, right? There's a conflict of interest, in my opinion. Push comes to shove, the lender works for the builder, not you. I've heard horror stories where builders go under contract or buyer goes under contract for $400,000. They're not closing for a year. Lumber prices go up, home values go up, all this stuff. And a year later, that home is worth $500,000. And the builder will tell the lender, deny that buyer so I can find a new buyer, because I sold it to that buyer for $400,000. Well, home a year later is worth $500,000. The builder just potentially lost $100,000 in profit. So what do? They green brick home loans, and green brick building does this to people. Okay. They're terrible. I hate green brick. I hate Lennar. Those are really tough ones to beat. So, there is a conflict of interest. Me being an outside party, an outside lender, I'm going to be advocating only for you. So that is something you could potentially highlight. I've had people go with me for that reason, is that they had such a bad experience, because one of the drawbacks of working with an in-house lender is that is the least lowest paid job in lending, right? So like the in-house lender, they're getting handed leads. So, and they get super overworked and super underpaid. And a lot of times they're very inexperienced. They might be like a brand new loan officer, or maybe a loan officer who doesn't really know what they're doing. So that, in my opinion, that's a drawback. You might have a buyer that has a terrible experience because they get no response. Even the builder sales agent sometimes doesn't like the in-house builders lender because they never get back to them. They're like, hey, I've got a buyer ready to sign a contract, but I can't get my lender to call them back to give them a set of numbers. So I've had builders work with me as their turn down lender or their backup lender whenever their in-house lender can't, get is not available. Then let's see here. Another thing that I do sometimes is I feel like I can control the appraisal a little bit more in terms of having good appraisers. So like push comes to shove, I've had situations where like, I'm like, hey, I'm pretty confident the property will appraise for more. So again, you're under contract for 500,000 now. The appraisal is not going to be done for 9 months. I'll make, I'm pretty confident it can appraise for at least 510,000. I will get an amendment with the builder sales agent, and I just basically bet on myself and my ability to convince a builder sales agent 9 months later to write up an amendment to raise the sales price by $10,000, give me $10,000 to buy down the rate, and then I quote that to the borrower, right? Even though I don't have the seller credit yet, I'm confident in my abilities to control the situation and make stuff happen, so that's like kind of worst case scenario, something I would do if I really, really wanted the deal. So hopefully this is helpful, and always reach out if you need more specific one-off, scenarios.